Okay guys, we are going to just do a quick benchmark review. I'm just going to try and refresh your recollection of some things that we've gone over the past year so that you won't see it on the benchmark for the first time in a long time. Here's just a few things. The first one is a scatter plot. This is what a scatter plot looks like. We talked about that. These points represent data points. We know that those are relations. This is their XY value and XY value. These are all just data points that we have been given on the scatter plot. We're talking about the correlation coefficient. This is basically telling you about the relationship among all of these data points. So we have absences versus exam scores. We have your exam score here, your number of absences on your x-axis, your exam score on your y-axis, and we're asked for the correlation coefficient. And one thing we need to know is when it's a 1, when it's close to 1, or -1, that's a strong correlation. When it's close to 0, that's a weak correlation. And what a correlation means is how close or far apart the dots are together to form a line. So you can see that the dots are fairly close together to form that line. So we're going to call that a pretty strong correlation. This would be a fairly strong correlation. So we know that it's going to be close to 1 or -1. Another thing that we see is that it is a negative slope. It is going down. The slope is going down. It's starting up and it's red from left to right. So it's going down. So this is going to be a negative. So we can automatically cross out your positive and positive answers. Correlation of positive 0.6, correlation of positive 0.62. Both of those are going to be incorrect because of the fact that your slope is going down, and so we know it needs to be a negative number. So we're left with -0.62 and -0.92. And we see that the dots are close together. This is closer to 1 or -1, so we're going to choose answer C. Okay, using the data, what would Bill's exam score if he had been absent 6 times? So we're going to look across the number of absences to 6. We see that this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Even though they don't give us those numbers, we can create that. And we go up to 6 and we figure that that is going to be about 75. So his score would be about 75%. Sorry, I didn't move that up. All right. Any questions on that? Okay. Moving on. Then we have, which representation does not show y as a function? We know that a function has no repeating x values. So we're going to look and see which of these show us repeating x values. Here we have 1, 3, 5, and 7. That would be a function. Here we have 2, 3, 7, and 11. That would be a function. We're only looking at our x values. We know our x's are on the left and our y's are on the right. So we're only looking at our x's. And here we're only looking at our x's. Here we're looking at our x-axis. Are there any repeating x values? Each x is assigned, this is where we use the vertical line test. Each x is assigned one y value. So this would be a function. Here we have our x values and our y values. 3 is assigned to both 2 and 6. So 3 would be repeating with 2 and 6. So this is not a function. Alright, moving on. Which function represents the arithmetic sequence shown in the graph? So we are talking about an indicator as to what is going to give us this line. The first thing you're going to want to do is figure out what is your slope, or the common difference. Okay, the common difference between each of these, or you could even do your y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 is going to give you your slope. So if I were to take this being my y2, or my y2, and this is my x2, and this my y1, and this my x1, I would say 21 minus 24 divided by 2 minus 1. That's going to give me negative 3 over 1, so my slope would be negative 3 is my slope. And here I see that this is y equals, this would be my b plus my mx. Do you see how it's written differently? This would be my slope indicator, and this is my y-intercept here. So if I know my slope is negative 3, I can automatically count off a because that's positive 3. I also then have to figure out what would my y-intercept be. Well, I noticed that this is a line going like this, and if it continues on, it's going to stop right there. We see that these are in increments of 4, and the line is going to go just underneath where this meets, which would be above 24. It's not going to be at 24, and the only other option is 27. So D is going to be our answer. Another way is you can say this has a common difference of 3. Do you see how this goes down by 3 every time? This is a common difference of negative 3. So if we were going to go up, this would be 27, 0. So there's a few different ways to solve that. You look for the common difference. That is going to be your slope. Then you work backwards to figure out the difference between each of these. You're subtracting 3, subtracting 3, subtracting 3. So to figure out your 0 value or your y-intercept, you add 3. Alright. Then we have a function is represented by f of x equals 2x plus 5. Find f of 3. You're going to take your 3 and plug that in for your x. So it becomes f of 3 equals 2 times 3 plus 5. 2 times 3 is 6 plus 5. 6 plus 5 is 11. Your answer would be 11, so you'd bubble in 11. Find the corresponding value of h of x, 2x squared plus 4x plus 8, when a domain value is 4a. Domain is our x value. This is where your vocabulary comes in. All that's telling you is that x equals 4a. So you plug 4a in 4x. And what do we get? We're going to get h of x equals 2 times 4a squared plus 4 times 4a plus 8. Do you see how I literally just took 4a and plugged it in to the x's? Then I just multiply it out. 2 times 4a squared would be 16a squared. Don't forget to square your 4. Plus 4 times 4a is going to give me 16a plus 8. Then I work here. 2 times 16 is 32a squared plus 16a plus 8. This will be your answer. One thing I want to remind you guys is when you guys are working multiple choice, if this is a multiple choice question, you need to do the work and then look for the answer. Don't see if you can guess from the answer choices which one should be the answer. They will always provide you with one that looks like the easy out. Do your work first and then look for your answer. All right. Here we have the following sequence. These are going to be your y values. Represent the sequence using the explicit formula. Well, the difference, the common difference, is what? How do we get from difference? How do we get from here to here, and from here to here, and from here to here? We're adding 2. Adding 2. Adding 2 here. So each time we add 2. So the common difference, our d value, is going to be 2. Now our formula, for those of you who remember, which you may not have, is going to be your first term, or your n term, equals your first term plus your n minus 1 times the difference. And let's just talk about that for a second. This is basically what you're trying to find. And this should be information that you know. This is going to be your unknown variable, or your x. So your number 1 is your very first term. So in this case, it's going to be negative 5 plus, and then your n is your unknown. This would be like your x minus 1, and your d is your common difference, 2. And that's going to equal your future term of a sub n. So basically what this is saying is your future term at this time. So we're going to work this out. You're going to, this may be the answer, or you may be required to work it out to say negative 5 plus, and then you distribute your 2n minus 2. So and then you'd combine your like terms, and you would get your answer as, I ran out of space. an equals this minus this, negative 7 plus 2n. That would be your equation. Okay, and you know that 7 is going to go into your first, or you could say, I think we worked it out where it was a of n equals a sub 0, the term before your first term, plus your common difference. And here, if we worked backwards, what would give us, we could put negative 7 here, because that would be a plus 2 here, and your negative 7 there, plus your common difference, n. Whichever way you makes more sense. Okay, represent the sequence as a table. So basically you're just going to have your XY table. Your X is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and these are your Y values. So negative 5, negative 3, negative 1, 1, and 3. Okay, so hopefully that, we're going to look at that and be like, oh yeah, that's easy. Ordered pairs, we use the same thing, except for we're putting it in a relation. This is your relation. Your XY data points. So we've got 1 comma negative 5. We've got 2 comma negative 3. We've got 3 comma negative 1. 4 comma 1. And 5 comma 3. And if you don't know where I'm getting it right from these tables. This is right here. This one is right here. This is right here. 4 is right here. And 5 is right here. So that's where I'm getting those. I'm just putting them in ordered pair form where this is my X, this is my Y. You've already done it in your table, but this is how you put it in ordered form. You got to use your X's as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They don't tell you that up here. They're just giving you your Y values in a arithmetic sequence typically. And you start with 1, 2, 3. That's the arithmetic sequence part. Your first term, second term, third term, fourth term, fifth term. Okay, in slope-intercept form. Same type of thing. You're going to come up here and say your Y is going to be equal to, your D is your slope. This is your difference. Times your X plus your Y-intercept, which would be your A sub 0, which is your negative 7. So Y equals 2X minus 7. Okay. Then represent it as a graph, and it talks about a discrete graph. We know that discrete are separate data points. Continuous would be a line, would be represented by a line. Okay, so discrete are separate data points. Continuous data is a straight line. It doesn't have an intermiddle space in between. So if we're going to basically graph these points, we're going to graph these points. So we would do X is 1, Y is negative 5. X is 2, Y is negative 3. X is 3, Y is negative 1. X is 4, Y is 1, and x is 5, y is 3. And that's it. Do not connect. Do not connect. Because it's discrete. These are your discrete data points. Then represent it as a diagram. This is basically your map. And we've done this, and hopefully you're going to be like, oh yeah. So you have your x and your y, and you create your mapping. And you've got your 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 here. You've got your -5, -3, -1, 1, and 3. And then you draw your lines from your x to your y value. Don't forget to draw your lines, because that's part of, this is your telling me that you know which goes to which x value goes to which y value. You must have the lines in there. Okay, hopefully that at least spurred your memory a little bit. This question, I really just want to remind you how to create the common difference or the slope when you're given where these are not consistent. This goes from 2 to 4, and then 5 to 8, and then to 11, 2 to 3 to 6 to 7 to 10. When you're looking for your slope or your common difference, which is also your rate of change, that's when you're going to use your y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. You can always use that to find these values. So for North Junior High, you can take 1460 minus 1730 over 4 minus 2. And that's going to give you, I'm going to use my calculator, 14.3, oops, 14.6 minus 17.3, negative 2.7 divided by 2. So divided by 2. So my rate of change here is $1.35. Negative. So what's my rate of change here? This would be 1. So 25.05 minus 26.7 over 3 minus 2. This is my y2. This is my y1. This is my x2, x2, x1. Sorry. y2, x2, y1, x1. And I get 25.05 minus 26.7 is negative 165 over 1. So this is negative 165, 1.65. And what does this indicate? These are the number of lunches, and this is your account balance. So the more lunches you buy, the more your account balance goes down. The rate of change is going to be the cost of lunch. So $1.35 is the cost of lunch at North Junior High. $1.65 is the cost at West Junior High. Okay. And if we were going to compare the rates from the junior highs, what conclusion can you make? Basically, that West lunch is more expensive. Okay? What would be the y-intercept? You'd have to work backwards and say, for North, you're going to take this value, and you're going to work backwards. So 17.30. So you're, for one lunch, if you started with 17.30 after 2 lunches, if you were to add $1.35, that would give you your balance after 1 lunch, so 17.3 plus 1.35 would be $18.65 plus another $1.35 since you bought 2 lunches plus $1.35. You'd have started out with $20. This child started out with $20. You work backwards. You're going, after 1 lunch, he would have had $1.35 more than this. After buying no lunches, he would have had $20. Okay, same thing with West Junior High. You'd take $1.65. You'd take his balance after 2 lunches and say, okay, he bought 2 lunches. So that would be 26.7 plus 165 after buying 1 lunch. So he had 28.35 when he only bought 1 lunch, plus 1.65. He had $30 in his account to begin with. These are his y-intercepts. This is the money that he started with. Starting money. Okay. All right. Let's move on. The graph of this line shown below. So here we've got the graph. What equations describes the line perpendicular and passes through 0, 5. So first we need to find the slope of this line. So the slope of this line is going to be your rise over your run. So we go up 2 and over 1, 2, 3. So your slope is 2/3. So the slope of a line perpendicular would be -3/2. Opposite reciprocal. Alright, then we've got your so now you're going to look which of these have the correct slope, because obviously the answer's got to have the correct slope. You can cross out A and you can cross out C. So now we're left with B and D, and we need the line to, or we need it to pass through 0, 5. Well, what 0, 5 is right here? That is our y-intercept. 0, 5 is the y-intercept. They gave that to you. So we don't even have to find it. We could if we wanted, and I'll show you how to do it that way if you did not see that. So you would basically take your y equals negative with my slope x plus I need to figure out what my y-intercept is. This is what I'm looking for because I have an x value and I have a y value. So I can plug those into my y is 5, my x is 0. Then I just plug it into this equation. Plus b, that's what I'm looking for. 0 times -3/2 is 0. So I get 5 equals b. Then when I plug it into my equation, I'm going to get 5 equals, or y equals -3/2x plus 5. And that is D. Don't use the same y-intercept as this It's not ever going to be the same. So if you're using the same y-intercept as one they're giving you, it's going to be automatically wrong. Okay, same here. A line passes through this point and this point, and it has a slope of negative 5/2. What's the value of x? Well, the way you figure that out is you know that your slope equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Here's your x1, here's your y1, here's your x2, here's your y2. So I can just plug everything in, and here's my slope. So negative 5/2 is going to equal this 6 minus negative 9 over negative 4 minus x. And I get, this turns into a positive, so I get 15 here, positive 15, and then negative 4 minus x equals negative 5/2. So here's where kind of the fun part comes in. You're going to cross multiply this times this, and you're going to get 30, which is 15 times 2 equals 30. 15 times 2 is 30, and equals negative 5 times negative 4 minus x. And then you just distribute. So you get 30 equals 20, because negative 5 times negative 4 is 20, plus x. Negative 5 times negative x is, positive 5x. Negative 5 times negative 4 gives you positive 20. Negative 5 times negative x gives you positive 5x. Then you solve for x. What is x? You have to subtract both sides by 20. 10 equals 5x. Divide both sides by 5. And you end up with x equals, so x would be 2 in this situation. And there's your answer. This is something that we have not gone over, but hopefully you've gone over in the past. If you haven't, then it is a useful tool. When you have fractions equal to each other, you can cross multiply. Okay. Moving on. Using the graph to determine the slope of a line, write the equation to represent the graph. So this is your line. Right here we know that x equals 4. So one of these two, this is not correct, and this is not correct. So we know that x equals 4 has to be our answer, and our slope of a vertical line, hopefully you know, is undefined. Hopefully that's an easy one for you. Which equation is parallel to a line that contains the points here? So you need to find the slope. It's asking you to find your slope. So this is your x1, y1. This is your x2, y2. So we've got y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That's going to be negative 3 minus 1. Please be careful with your negatives and adding and subtracting, and make sure that if it's 2 minus, and then that's a negative 3, make sure you're putting the entire number and that you're not combining those without reason. So negative 3 minus 1 is negative 4. 2 minus a negative 3 is going to be positive 5. We change those to positives. So here is our slope. Now we're looking for an equation with a parallel. So parallel lines have the same slope. So hopefully you've already figured it out that your answer is going to be the only one that has the slope is A. This is incorrect because that's 5/4. This is negative 5/4. Alright. And if it said perpendicular, the one that you would choose would be B. This is perpendicular. That's the perpendicular sign. That would have a slope that's perpendicular. A is your answer because it asks for parallel. What is the solution to this? This will be your last one. You basically have to solve for x. And you're going to have one of these problems on the test as well. So you're going to distribute. So you get, I'm going to use my calculator. 0.3 times 12 is 3.6x minus 16 times 0.3 is 4.8 equals 0.4 times 12 equals 0.48 minus 0.4 times 3, 1.2x. Hopefully you see how I did that. I just distributed this out. 0.3 times 12x is 3.6x. 0.3 times 16 is 4.8. And I just distributed that out. Now I'm going to solve for x. Solve for x. So I'm going to combine like terms. And I'm going to subtract 4.8, 4.8, and I get 3.6x minus 9.6 equals, that crosses out, minus 1.2x. Then I'm going to subtract, oh, I did it the negative way. I don't normally like to do it that way. 3.6x. Cross these out. I get negative 9.6 equals negative 4.8x. Then when I divide negative 4.8, I get x equals 2. And there you have it. Okay. I do want to go through these. Here's this last, I'm going to do this last one. Which inequality can be represented by the graph below? Here we have y is greater than x plus b. So these we need to change into y-intercept form. So if we change this, x minus y greater than or equal to negative b, I'm going to move my x, negative y greater than or equal to negative x minus b. Then I've got to divide by negative 1, and when I divide by negative 1, my sign changes. So I'm left with y is less than number c. I'm going to move my x minus x minus x, y is greater than or equal to minus x plus b. And my negative y greater than or equal to x plus b, I've got to divide by negative 1. And I'm left with y, but I have to change my sign. Negative x minus b. So which of these three, this one's already in y-intercept form. Which of these four equations are represented by this graph? Well, they all have a slope of 1 or negative 1. and I see that my slope is positive. So I know that this one, which has a slope of -1, is incorrect, and this one that has a slope of -1 is incorrect. Because I've got a positive slope. I see that my y-intercept is B on both, so that's okay, except this is greater than and this is less than. The shading is above, and since it's above, y must be greater than. Y is greater than or equal to. So this is going to be my answer. I hope that helped, guys.